Okay, let's hit that share again. Do we have that?
Yep.
All right, guys, hi, thanks again for being here. I'm super excited about this one because some people last week had mentioned the Grand Canyon, and what some people might not know is that Havasupai is actually part of the Grand Canyon, but it's a very remote place. Let's see, I can continue, okay. And it's 8 miles, it's actually 10 miles down into the Grand Canyon. And if you see this map, you can see that the Grand Canyon's about 1.2 million acres. It's huge. And this one tribe has lived down in the Grand Canyon, and that's the Supai Reservation. Now, as I said, it's very remote. It's beautiful. You start at the top of the South Rim and you go down 8 miles to the where the reservation is, and it's all, as you walk down, you see this picture. It's red rock walls, and you see that's us down there. It's huge, so we look very small. And when you arrive at the reservation, you see these two big, beautiful towers, and those are natural rock formations, and that is where they chose to set their little village. So it's quite a challenging, it's funny, Amy said that you start down and let me show you this picture. You start up, if you can see the top of this little map, you start at the top of the South Rim, and then you just start hiking down, 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 and you get down to the village where those two towers are right here. And then you come into the village, and it's literally a community. There's 608 people that live there. It's an actual Indian reservation, and it's, as it says on the screen, 188,000 acres. So it's huge, but it's one small area of the Grand Canyon. What's really amazing about it is you cannot go there by automobile. You either hike, you take a mule or a horse, or I'll tell you another way later, but that's it. And this is the mailman coming down with the mail and supplies, and that's how they've been doing it. And that's how there'll never be cars in that area. There's no way to build roads into the canyon. So when you get down there, first of all, you need a permit. You have to plan ahead. You can't just show up, and you have to camp when you get there. So you have to be prepared. You have to have all your supplies. And when you get there, the village people have a small store, and you can get some food, but they're very different people, and they do not, and this is one thing I love about travel. I love learning new things, and I love this little sign by the village store, open at 10, but most of the time at 11:30 or by 12:30. And that's just okay. That's how they live. And you learn, once again, patience or somebody else's culture. And you also learn that fried bread is just about the best thing you can ever eat. And you can see the picture. You can get it with cheese. It melts in your mouth. And after a 10-mile hike, it was one of the most exciting things. Luckily, the store was open that day when we got there, because some people get there and they're not open because they're doing something else. So I just thought that was cute. And one of the things, but wherever I go when I travel, and I'm sure you feel this way, there's something unexpected. There's something to surprise you. And that was just such a great surprise for me. Now, a lot of you think of the Grand Canyon, you think of this vast, dry desert canyon. Well, one of the biggest surprises about Havasupai is the waterfalls. And this is an actual picture. And you get to this tribe and you walk 2 miles down, and there you are in the most beautiful waterfall you've ever seen. And we all jumped in and we hooted and hollered, and we learned that Havasupai means people of the green water. And as you can see, it's the most emerald water you've ever seen. And right up at the top of this waterfall, it's a hidden aquifer that has been feeding this place. And there's about 6 miles from this point that you keep descending to different waterfalls. And it's just, you can walk along in the river, and it's actually where we camped. There's my little tent that I stayed in for 3 nights right along this river. And that was my view, this beautiful red rock. And at night you look up, and because there's nothing, the stars are the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And we might have taken a little night swim in that water, and it's just magnificent. So you're walking and you're hot and you're dusty, and here is this incredible water. And each day that we camped, we would get up and we would do another little adventure. And this is called Mooney Falls. And I hope you can see this picture. It's extremely steep. And these are the chains that you hold on to get down. And it's slippery and it's a little scary. But once again, you get to the bottom of this incredibly beautiful waterfall, and you can play in the water and you can feel the rush of the water. And it's just incredible. So that was a day that we hiked, and when you can actually go into some of these little canyons, and there's bats and there's stalactites, and you learn about the history of how it was all formed. So that was really exciting. And then after you go to Mooney Falls, there's Beaver Falls. And this is a friend of mine who's jumping in. And there were a lot of different heights. That one's pretty low, but if you can see in the picture that little dark head, that's me. And I know, Jillian, we always talk about being humble and not bragging about ourselves, but I do have to tell you a little story about this because it's kind of cool and I'm kind of proud. Mm-hmm. So if you see where I am, you can go, if you time it just right, and there's a guy that tells you, time it just right and just bob down under and go it behind the falls, and then just hold your breath and trust and let the fall shoot you to the other side, and you'll come out or you'll hit the rocks and die. And I said, all right, I'll give it a try. So I did it. I was scared out of my mind. And that's another thing about travel is I don't do this on a daily basis. So I just thought, oh, well, I'll give it a try. And that's exactly what happens. You go underwater, you can't see, and you just hold your breath and you have a little faith, and it's like the best amusement park ride I've ever been on. You get shot out like a cannon and you come out right over to the side. And I'm here to tell you, so I didn't die, but we were walking back, and some of the young teenagers that live on the tribe said, we heard a white woman shot the falls. And they said, and she was old. And I said, that's me. And they said, nobody ever does that. So I was so excited. And if I had known more about it, I probably never would have done it. But they were pretty excited that some old lady did it. So there's always something to challenge yourself. And to, I think fear is good, and pushing your limits sometimes. Because I'll tell you, after I did it for about 5 days, I thought, maybe I can do anything. And I wasn't fearful. And so I think that's another, people always ask me, why do you travel? Why do you go to these places? Why do you do these things? I think it's so important to, and then I kind of believed in myself that maybe I can do some things that I wouldn't think I could. And then my husband thought I was crazy, but that's a whole nother story. So anyway, so as you go down the falls, each one is a little different. Each one has its own sense of adventure. And the whole experience becomes about this beautiful green water. And it's just so crazy because people think of the Grand Canyon as this very, dry, remote place, but there's this little oasis in the middle of it. And that's why the Havasupai live there, because obviously the water is good for farming and good for that's how they have literally survived in the Grand Canyon for over 800 years. So it's really like nothing you'll ever see in your life. So after 3 fun days, we camped, we hiked, we played in the water. It was time to go. So we made it's pretty easy to get down. Getting back up is another thing. And this was the group I went with, and you can see it's just beautiful when you get back to the top. And when we got back to the top, somebody said, how was your hike? And we said, it was really hard. And they said, well, you could have taken the helicopter. So apparently it's very accessible by helicopter. You can get back up in about a half an hour and $85. But it was pretty fun and pretty challenging to walk back up. And, you know, feel that sense of accomplishment. But there are 2 porta potties down at the bottom at the tribe, and they actually lift them up and take them on this helicopter on a daily basis. And I just think that's hysterical too, to see a porta potty flying through the sky. So that's another thing I never would have seen in my lifetime. Now I have a little video of jumping in the falls, and I'm going to try to play it for you guys if you're interested. This was about, I don't know, 40 feet. And it took me a little while to get my nerve up, but I think it's just, let's see if that, here we go.
I think you have to, can you guys see this? Can everybody see this? I can't see it. Bridget, I think you have to, is the video running from your presentation?
Oh no, so I don't think I can, okay. Well,
if you stop the presentation, you can show the video and then you can put the presentation back on if that's easier. Or you could show us after you're done with the presentation.
Okay, let's resume. So
I think, is everybody's screen look okay? Mine looks a little off.
Yeah, mine went completely black.
So
So
Bridge,
I hit the power thing and it went back.
So Bridget, if you unshare your screen and then share it again, it should work.
Okay, let's see.
Sometimes it happens. I don't know why you can't share more than one thing at a time, but
Okay. It says sharing is paused. Okay, I shouldn't have done that.
So if you unshare it, if you stop sharing for a second and then you go back to sharing.
Stop share. Okay.
And then you can share again, it should work.
Okay.
And then we can unshare and you can show us the video because I think that'd be fun.
Okay. So do you guys see me now again?
Yes, but we see your, yes. Oh, is this the video? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is, once again, this is another fall, like where you saw the shoot the moon. This is where you jump in to go into that pool. So I am gonna mute this because I don't think you need to hear my screams, but this was, as you'll see, it took me a little while to get my nerve up, but it was really fun. And it might be a little too long, but it's just fun.
It's good. It's good. Was the water cold?
So the water is a lovely, refreshing temperature, but it's not cold. It's refreshing. Mm-hmm. And the reason, I'll tell you, let's see. There we go. Woo, boom.
Oh, nice.
So it doesn't ever look as high on video, but I can tell you it was scary. So that water is always that beautiful emerald because there's a lot of calcium and magnesium, and it's all limestone. And so the sun reflects and it just keeps it the same temperature and the same color year round. So there are times where it's too cold in the canyon to go swimming. And I think they say maybe April, November is the best time to be there. And then they've got the rainy season, so you can't swim. But I think it was, 85, 90 degrees when we were hiking down. So every time we got in the water, it was just so refreshing and so much fun. So, so let me see if I can get my share screen back up. Oh, there we go. I've lost my presentation, but that was really it. So, can you guys see me again? I can't get that. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, sorry, I'm still technologically challenged, guys. So that was
doing great.
Yeah. So that's, I just would love to entertain any questions, or I can tell you a little bit more if you guys want some more information about the tribe or the adventure. So
do you guys have some questions, everybody? Because I have a couple, but I'm going to let you guys ask first.
Do you need to make reservations, and do you have to have a guide to go down and do this?
Yes, so you do have to make reservations and you have to get a permit. So it does take a little bit of advanced planning, and there's a limit to how many people they let down because they're obviously concerned about trash, and whatever you bring in, you can bring out. You can do it self-supported. We did have a guide that helped with our meals. So you can take all of your equipment and you can hike down once you have your permit, and you can stay along the river, or you can go through a company, which is what we did because we did not want to pack all of our food and camping equipment. So you can do it both ways. The hardier people, younger people mostly, but you can't make it up and down in a day. So you do have to stay a minimum of one night. And truthfully, there's so much down there. First, you learn all about the Havasupai and you spend some time in the tribe, and then you start sort of making your way down the falls. And there's so many hikes and there's so much to see that I think really a minimum of, 2 nights, 3 days is what you need to experience it. And especially because the hike is tiring. So when you're leaving, you leave as early as possible. I think we left at 6 a.m. because it just gets so hot and you want to get out of the canyon before it gets, unbearable. But so, it's tiring. So you need a couple days. But yeah.
Bridget, I think Eileen wants to know, how long did it take you to get there? And I don't know if she means from here. Eileen, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask if you want. Do you mean from here or once?
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, how long did it take?
Okay, so the whole thing, so you fly from, like say you were going from DC, you fly to Arizona, and then we had to rent a van and we drove about 3 hours to the rim of, to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. So, it's pretty remote. And then we started our hike, and I think it took us about 4 hours, 5 hours down, and then 6 or 7 to get back up. So, and while we were down there, so what's so interesting is from where you start at the tribe, at Supai Village, you can actually hike all the way to the Colorado River. So it's about, this series, and I think it's about 8 miles end to end from the tribe to the Colorado River. So you could actually hike, and then you could get on a raft and float the Colorado River out of the canyon too, which would be that I'd love to do that, but yeah.
Hey, Bridge, can you tell us a little about the people and like, what do they do for jobs and things like that?
Yeah, so it's
actually, if you're done with the presentation, if you want to stop sharing it and then we can see a bigger you, would be great.
Yes.
You guys can go to speaker view so you can see Bridget or whoever's talking.
Stop share. There we go. Gallery.
Thank you. That's perfect.
Yeah. So Jillian, that's a really good question because, our country has sort of, it was uplifting and depressing in some ways to experience the reservation because they, farming and tourism now is their main source of income. And it's a struggle to be down there. It's not an easy life. And they really do rely, like I was thinking about them today as I was looking forward to talking to you guys, because tourism being the main source of income, it's closed right now because of COVID. They're not allowing people into the, down into Havasupai at all. So I'm hoping, they do get some government subsidies, but that's why, it's a challenge. And they have a very big push-pull with wanting tourists and wanting to be left alone because their way of life is very insular, and they just want to be left alone, but they know in order to survive, they need tourists. And so when you walk into the village, they're friendly and they are very appreciative. A lot of the women are very skilled crafts. They make a lot of baskets, and there's rich minerals that they make jewelry from. So they do have sources of income that they, but once again, it all relies on tourism. And so they do want you to visit. They are open, but then they also want to have their lives and not be a tourist attraction in and of themselves. Mm-hmm. So we all felt conflicted because in order to get through, in order to get to the falls or anywhere else down, you have to walk right through the reservation, and they've made specific paths and roads that they want tourists to use, and they just really don't want people, but their houses and their farms are right there, and they really don't want people walking through and invading their space. And of course, some people do. So, you try to be very respectful, and to them, it's very sacred land, and they lost it for a while, and then it was restored through government intervention, and they got their land that they felt that they was theirs rightfully back. And so they really are invested in preserving it and keeping it there. There's a school, there's a church, and they have signs to please, respect the privacy of their church and their schools, and come to the store, see things, but don't, trample the land, basically. So,
how about medical?
a medical, they have a small clinic, and it's really cool. People come and volunteer. Young doctors will come and do a stint at the clinic, and dental, and but if anything serious happens, they have to be helicoptered out. And so they do have a really good functioning clinic, actually, because so many people are interested in going and doing a volunteer stint at the clinic. But yeah, if anything serious happens, they have to be helicoptered out to the nearest hospital.
Yeah, that's far.
And Flagstaff is the closest place. So, and that's why when you're doing things in the falls, you also have to be very careful. I'm not the poster child for that, but yeah, that's a really good question. Somebody in our group actually had to go to the clinic because they had a allergic reaction to something, and they were taken really good care of.
So Robert has a question. Did you go to Sedona, which is just south of the Grand Canyon?
I did. On this particular trip, when we left, we did go to Sedona. Have you been there, Robert? It's a beautiful place, and you would very much understand the red rock of the canyon and Sedona. There's just something magical about it, and we had I loved Sedona. Yeah. Have you been there, Jillian?
I went there over Christmas to Sedona.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It was a little chilly for me, but Robert, I don't know if it was cold, if you were there, if it was cold, but the views were spectacular.
That's the thing about that area. Because it's desert, it's the extremes. It's very hot, and then the minute the sun goes down, it can be very cold. When we were there, luckily, actually, it was pretty hot at night even, and we would jump in the river and then sleep and just let ourselves dry off in our tents. So that's how we stayed cool. Nature's air conditioning.
What is the best month of the year to go to Sedona or the place that you were showing us at the moment?
That's a great question, David. So you don't want to go in the summer because it's just way too hot. You would fry like a little egg. So I think the fall and the spring are the nicest times. April and September, October, November is really beautiful. At least down in Havasupai. Sedona, that area, there's a wider, you can go many more times, but never in the summer. It can get over to be, it's very dry and very hot, over 100 degrees quite frequently. So.
And I like the one that you say you can take a helicopter to.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody wants to hike. And I think it's really important that everybody has a chance to see some of the most beautiful natural places in our country. So if you're not interested or you can't hike down, you can still get there.
Can we go with you in the helicopter?
Yeah, I'd like to go in the helicopter.
Yeah,
so
I would like to go in a helicopter too.
Yeah.
It sounds cool.
I'll have to tell you, if I was going to go again, I would definitely helicopter back up, because you only one and done on that hike. And
yeah.
And the thing about, that's what I think is so cool about, there's so many places in the world, but this is our country and it's right there. And so many people don't hear about Hava. That's why I wanted to talk about the Grand Canyon, but I wanted to talk about Havasupai too, because so many people have never heard of it. And I had never heard of it. I had been to the Grand Canyon before and hadn't even heard of Havasupai. And so I think if you go by helicopter and get to see it, great. I'm in, David. I'd go with you.
Sounds good to me, David. Another trip for Main Street, huh?
Right.
Sounds good. Has anybody had an experience on a helicopter before, flying on a helicopter? Heather? Eileen? Oh, Eileen?
Just me.
So I thought you, just you.
Me. Yeah, in Hawaii, we did on our honeymoon, we did a helicopter ride. It was scary until you get used to it, but it was really beautiful. So the scenery is just spectacular.
Wasn't it during the time when we were trying to get up Diamond Head?
We were not in a helicopter. We were walking. Trust me, because I will forever remember that hike up Diamond Head. Thank you.
Where's Diamond Head?
It's
Hawaii.
Oahu.
On the,
On Oahu, yeah.
That's a great hike, isn't it, Heather?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I almost died on that hike. So,
Isn't that the hike where you go into the old World War II pillboxes and you have to
Yes.
climb up inside of Diamond Head for
Yes.
parts of it?
that's the
And
one.
it's really dark.
But it wasn't the darkness, it was the perpetual climb up that was a problem for me. I don't walk real well, and I was chaperoning a group of young people who were way ahead of me. So I didn't have any, and no phone reception, so I couldn't call in and say, I'm going to wait here for you. You know, couldn't do that because there was no reception. So I had to go, and I thought I was going to pass out by the time I got to the top.
I thought it was really cool. You take your car, you drive through a tunnel into the crater of Diamond Head.
Right.
You park your car, and then you walk up.
Yeah, but
It's an old
really
World War II fort, and you walk up to the top of Diamond Head from the floor of the crater.
See, I always find these
Spectacular.
easy ways afterwards. Like, I wish I had known that. Then I could, right? We wouldn't have had to hike, Heather.
I remember the view was amazing though.
Yeah, it was. The view was spectacular.
Heather, what did you see from the view?
Well, it may have been a bit tricky to see all the islands, but you can actually get a pretty good view of the city from up there.
Yeah, it kind of looks out across the beach and all of Oahu.
Yeah.
It was really pretty.
But it was like way back when my sister and I was in 11th grade. My sister was in 9th grade. But yeah, my mom
It was a music department trip, and I was a chaperone. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Anybody else have any cool experiences to share? Hikes or helicopter rides or falls or adventure or, anything like that?
You were making me hungry with showing those pictures of Havasupai food.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, me too.
I have to tell you, I really, it was one of the most exciting moments when that fry bread came out because we had hiked and we were so hungry. And when you're hiking, I mean, I brought stupid like granola bars and healthy stuff, and we ditched those granola bars so fast, and everybody ate that fry bread. And I really, it was one of the best moments. It was probably one of the best things I've ever eaten. And I'm sure it wasn't that good, but at that moment when when we saw the sign, you just get giddy sometimes, and we were laughing so hard. And that's the thing I didn't mention, the tribe, the Havasu people have a great sense of humor, and I love, it was just a neat interaction, and they kind of laughed at us with they love the effect of all of us healthy Americans coming with our sports drinks and our granola bars, and they're like, oh yeah, we've got something you might really want. So I would go back just for that fry bread, I'll tell you.
Hey.
So.
I see in the chat, I see Robert wrote that he took the world's longest, I think, gondola. Is that in Israel? And was that scary, Robert? Thumbs up, scary, or thumbs down, not scary? Yeah, I would think that'd be a little scary. Yeah. And it looks like 7 chutes. Ulrich did a 7 chutes, a zip line to get across the rivers. I'm not sure where that was, but it sounds pretty fun, actually.
That's
Island's going to take a virtual tour on YouTube of Havasupai.
Oh,
Lovely.
I should have mentioned that there's some really, the sites that I gave you last week, the Compulsive Traveler has a beautiful Havasupai. So I can send that link. I forgot to put it on this week's presentation, but I'd be happy to send that to you guys. And Ulrich, if you have a good one, you should share it with us.
Yes, please do, guys. And if you have any cool places, virtual tours, fun things that you've done, if you went on any of Bridgit's sites and you want to share that with us, to share with everybody, we can put it in our membership follow-up emails, travel follow-up emails. So let us know for sure.
So has
Anybody?
anybody heard of Havasupai before this? I'm just curious. John.
No.
I had been there.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
I
wow.
was not the way you did. I did the raft trip down the Grand Canyon, and we stopped there and hiked up to what I guess is the first major waterfall from
And it's
down by the
incredible.
river.
It's-
I didn't realize there were so many other waterfalls because that hike we did, it was long and hot, and that was as far as I wanted to go.
Yeah, and that water is really refreshing after when you get there. But
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned that. I really would love to do the rafting trip. I think that would be fun.
It was fun. It's primitive, but it was great.
How many days, John? Was it 1 day rafting or more?
It's a 2 week. We did 1 day. We did 1 week. So it takes 2 weeks for the rafts because they put in up by just below the dam. I can't remember the name of, and they go all the way down till they get to Lake Powell, and that's where they take the boats out. We helicoptered out after 7 days. So they kind of I think they can't sell it for 14 days. So you can go for 7 days, and then you helicopter out, and the other group helicopters in and gets on the boats, and then they do the last 7 days. That's how that crew is doing it. You can do it for 2 weeks. I think to be honest, I think 7 days is good. But it's beautiful and it's to be down on the river. But things like the bathroom is a bucket and a tent. It's not even as nice as a porta potty.
Yeah.
There's some. I don't think I'll ever get Shelly to do it. My wife.
Well, I have to
What's
tell
gonna
you that as you probably have gathered, I like to camp and I like to adventure. And my husband isn't he likes to golf and be in air conditioning. So I talked him into this one, and he didn't know what he was getting himself into. And he actually really loved it, but he has no pictures because he was showing off and said he was going to jump off the falls, and he was scared out of his mind, and he kept his phone in his pocket, and someone was taking a picture of him jumping off, and they saw the phone in the back pocket. But he had never camped before, and he actually really liked it. And so I think, he said it was a time where he really stretched himself and just came along for the adventure. And he still talks about looking up, through the top of our tent and seeing all the stars. And he was really funny because he thought for sure there was a UFO one night, and it turned out to be a satellite that was orbiting. But he did think it was kind of rustic, but he thought he wouldn't want to live in a tent for too long. But I encourage everybody, even if you go do it in your backyard for fun, sleep in a tent one night. You'll hear things, you'll think about things, you'll do, it's just a very different experience. And then when you get back in your bed, it'll feel so good.
It's true. You'll appreciate a bed a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
I'm asking for unusual. I think the most unusual fun thing I did is I took a balloon ride over the Serengeti.
Okay, that's amazing.
That's cool.
And we landed, and then they had a table. They brought out a table, and we had a champagne brunch in the middle of the Serengeti.
Oh, wow.
All right, well,
That's
so
awesome.
you're going to help me with my talk about Africa then, because that's part of it. So we'll do that together,
Very
John.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah, John, bring your pictures too. You can share your screen after Bridget.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of pictures.
Well, pick a couple. We don't need the whole scrapbook, but you can pick a couple.
Have you
Guys,
been to Xcaray in Mexico?
I haven't.
It-
No.
Amazing. It's like an outdoor park that it has swimming with the dolphins, and it has all this wildlife and places to swim, pelicans, but there's an underwater cavern that you can swim through with goggles and everything. It is really fun.
Okay.
What is it called, Eileen?
Xcaray, Xcaret.
Okay.
It was somewhere outside of Cancun, I think.
Oh, beautiful. I love hearing about new places.
Me too. And by the way, Sam, you look like you could be in a helicopter right now with
I
your
know. I
headphones
was
on.
thinking that same thing.
I was gonna say you'd be a good pilot. You got the whole look going on now.
I want to be
Perfect.
like Kirby Vine's pilot.
You guys, does anybody have any other questions or comments? Yes, Sam.
I've been to Italy like a couple summers ago, and we did lots of hiking. I mean, lots of walking and hiking and all that.
How
Did
was
you
it?
love it, Sam?
It was hot.
But was it worth it?
Yes.
Sometimes the hard things are the best things, right?
Yes.
And like Bridget said, sometimes they're the things that say, you know what, I can do this. So then I can tackle the next thing that's hard, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's always good I think traveling brings us that sense of adventure. And I think you always come back with like at least one funny story, right? One hard thing, one funny story.
I want to ask Bridget, have you read a book about your adventure, about your travels? Have you started thinking about writing a book about your travels?
That is such a good question, David. And I actually have thought of that. I've written some articles. I don't know that I have the ultimate talent to put a whole book together, but I actually have thought about writing just maybe a mini book for my kids so that they can, before I lose my mind, I can get the stories down. So maybe you would help me put that together, David.
Sure, we can help as a team.
Yeah, that would be great. Before we go, Bridget, one thing, do you, and maybe you'll share this when you have some other adventures, so you don't have to answer now, but is there one particular place you've been where the people just are in your heart and you think about them wherever you go and, you know, take them on your journey with you now?
I can answer that with, there's not one, but the two that stand out are Ecuador. I found that the people in Ecuador were the kindest, most open-hearted, loving people I've ever met. And I spent a few days out in a hacienda, and I like to ride horses, and they let me be a part of that experience and gave me a horse and taught me so much. And there was just such a trust with the people of Ecuador and Africa. Wherever I've gone in Africa, I've had the same experience where, you know, I've just felt like the culture just connects with me and the people. But it's hard because I think everywhere I go, I always fall in love with the people in Peru, you know, and I always learn something and I have the best time. But I would say that Ecuador, of all the places, and Ecuador is funny because everybody hears, you know, there's Peru and Brazil, and it's sort of this teeny little place in South America, and they feel sometimes like they're forgotten and it's not as sexy as some of the other places, but they also know they're the best place in South America. So they love to show off what's so beautiful about the country and just really take you in. And so that's.
I love that. I love when people have such pride in their country.
Yes.
When you go, it's a beautiful thing to see, isn't it?
Yes. Now, I know we're almost finished, but that brings me to, and I really hope you guys will come along with me next week because I'm really excited about the place we're going. Now, everybody knows Patagonia, the clothing, right?
Yes.
So does everybody know Patagonia, the place?
No.
Well, next week, I'm going to introduce you to the one of the most beautiful places. I say that all the time about everywhere, so I'm sorry, but it really, truly is a beautiful place. So we're going to adventure in Patagonia, and you can learn more about my successes and some of my mishaps because there's always those. So I look forward to that. First, before we leave, does anybody have any other questions? Because I don't want to.
I kind of have one. Other than I know I don't really want to get anybody hungry before dinner, but other than the fried. Other than the fried bread, did they had any other kind of food other than that, or?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So they in that little, it's almost like a food truck where they were set up, and there was great traditional. It's Probably the best way to describe it would be very similar to Mexican food. It was all, there was a lot of tacos and things like that. But then the store had a lot of complete junk food. And then where we camped, we made all of our own food. So it was a little healthier, but every night we'd go back into the village for some ice cream. It wasn't always the healthiest, but they had great ice cream at night and little treats. So, but yeah, the fry bread little area was a lot of like enchiladas and that kind of food.
Oh.
I didn't lose weight after all that hiking. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, geez.
No.
Well, part of the fun, as we all know, of traveling, right? Part of the fun is the food, usually, right? If the food is good, I mean, I've literally gone to places and said, the food here sucks, I'm not coming back. I mean, so if food is, as we all know, is pretty important. You guys, before we go, I am going to do our poll real quick. So I'm going to launch that. So please let us know how you felt about today. And I will, if anybody has maybe one more question for Bridget before we go, anybody else? Is everybody kind of thumbs up if you're excited about going to Patagonia? Because I am. In fact, I changed an appointment. I was going to have another Main Street staff on the line next week. And I thought, like, I'm going to Patagonia because I haven't been and I really want to go. So changed an appointment and I'm excited because I get to be here. And I have seen some pictures of Patagonia before. So, and it is spectacular. You guys want to give like Bridget a clap, clap?
So great to see you guys.
And everybody done with the poll? I'm going to give it another, I see it there, it's almost finished, another second or two. I hope everybody knows that tomorrow morning, on a Thursday morning, is the Culture Series, and I think they're visiting a museum in Baltimore, which will be great. Bake with Sharon is on tomorrow also at 4 o'clock. I am on that line. My husband and Nickel are making cookies because they are her chocolate chip cookies, which are incredible. Oh, right. So my husband's on the line. Nickel's not. Friday, we have our beer tasting for those who are beer drinkers. And I think Sunday's a game day again. Friday, we also have Space of Belonging. We have yoga that's back this week. That was, they were out last week because of the holiday. So thank you for doing the poll, everybody. And Bridget, a huge thank you. You are incredible. I love traveling with you. This is so much fun.
Thank you. And it's really fun to see familiar faces. And I hope you guys keep coming back. And anything you want me to talk about, just let Jillian know.
Thank you, guys. I also, don't forget, in the chat, I put our feedback line, you know, so if you want to send some feedback that way. And look, maybe this, once, you know, this COVID crap is over, maybe we could all, you know, ask Bridget to do a trip and we could kind of decide where we want to go. I think it'd be super fun, right?
Oh yeah, I want this COVID crap to be over. It's boring. It's boring being at home.
I know, it's not fun being at home. It'd be much more fun in Havasupai, right? Especially on the helicopter.
Absolutely.
Right? So thank you guys for joining us. Bridget, you're the best. So much gratitude to you. And everybody have a happy, healthy afternoon, okay?
Too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Healthy afternoon.
Bye, guys.